So you could begin to deal with this issue at that level. And we started an organization called the One Campaign, which has 70 people in Washington, 26 in London, 8 in Berlin, 8 in Africa. And I still do the charity through the Band-Aid Trust. So that's it. The Band-Aid Trust is the charity, the One Campaign is the politics and economics, and I'm with Kofi Annan and others on the Africa Progress Panel, which is the G8 level. That's it.
But when you go to Africa, do you see the results of that?
Sometimes, yeah.
What do you see there?
Well, in 1985, there were 3 democracies. There are 23 today. In 1985, there were I think, something like 16 countries in conflict. Some of them vast conflicts, greater than the First World War. For example, the Congo War has killed more people than the First World War, but we don't know about it because it's Africa. 11 armies were fighting in the Congo, 11, because it's so rich and it's so huge. The Congo is the size of Europe, huge, and it's so wealthy. I mean, the river, just the river, can supply 1/6 of total world electricity needs, just the river. The rainforest, not as big as the Amazon, but not almost. And then they've got everything, all the rest, every mineral, every natural thing you want, and that's what they fight for. So there were 16, I think, conflicts. There are less conflicts in Africa today than Asia, and yet Asia is growing. So when people say these things are impediments to growth, they are, but they don't stop it. Corruption is less than Asia, much less than Asia. Typically, African corruption is about 8% of an economy, but for example, China is around 11 to 13%. China, Korea, all these places are hugely corrupt. I mean, Brazil's corrupt, but it's not stopping your development. So it's an impediment, but it won't stop it if the volume of wealth is enough. But it does stop good governance. But still, governance indicators are better. So yes, you see that. Then in terms of charity, I see the schools, I see the orphanages, I see the hospitals, I see the fields, you know, that. But yeah, of course you see it. It's not enough. It's very frustrating. You know, it's not because of us either. I'm not saying that that's because of what we did. I think it's because of people have understood the geostrategic importance of a giant continent, 8 miles, just 8 miles from the richest continent in the world, Europe. You know, it's ridiculous. The central issue is governance, like in every country. The problem is that it's less easy when there's so many internal rivalries. The colonial powers divided Africa into ridiculous sections, which they call countries. In those sections were several ethnicities who speak many, many different languages. Most Africans can speak 5 or 6 languages. Their tribal language, their neighbors' languages, and then one of the colonial languages. But a majority tribe or clan or ethnicity will nearly always, in a democracy, win power. So how do you get power from those, you know, without always competing? And the tradition in Africa is that the chief of the tribe must take care of his people first. So, you know, our idea of what a democracy is wildly different to the French idea or the Italian idea, even less so there. But some form of elective representative governments improves economic performance, which in turn improves the lives of the citizens. That's true. So you need better governance. But to have better governance, you need a decent economy, because the government can then tax the economy and can cohere the state. They can spend it on benefits to the citizen. 16 countries in Africa are landlocked, more than any other continent together, combined in the planet. This means that if they produce something, to get to a port, they have to pass through 5 other countries. So the costs and taxation makes it unproductive. By the time you reach the port, you've outpriced yourself for the market. Plus, North America and Europe impose terrible conditions on African goods reaching the market, in particular agricultural goods, which is, of course, the main economy of a poor continent. So all of these things are structural problems, and they need to be addressed. And they are addressed, but incredibly incrementally. It's no use the G8 saying, you know, we have to deal with agriculture. You fucked up agriculture in the first place by imposing the ridiculous common agricultural policy, or the Farm Bill in the United States, which subsidizes farmers. In other words, taxes us to pay farmers for food to grow that we will never use. We then pay more taxes to store this food and more taxes obscenely to destroy it while people are hungry. And that was the argument in the 80s that we confronted with Band-Aid. So after I saw that BBC News report, I said the next day, I said, to die of want in a world of surplus is not only intellectually absurd, it is morally repulsive. It is also, of course, economically illiterate. So these structural problems need to be addressed, and indeed must be addressed. They will be addressed in the future, so why not do it now?
What do you think of this idea that the economist Dambisa Moyo, she wrote a book called Dead Aid, which is against your alive aid, basically. She says that governmental assistance to Africa is bad for Africa, and it should be stopped. What do you think of that?
Well, I'll quote Trevor Manuel rather than me, because he is perhaps one of the most successful finance ministers in the world. He's the finance minister of South Africa, which has seen growth greater than Brazil's since independence. That is 15 years ago. And he now more or less, he's the man across all the government structures for Zuma. And when Trevor was asked about, he said, what do you think of Dambisa's Dead Aid? He said, dead aid, dead wrong.
Besides all your work on poverty, you are also interested in fathers' rights, and you raise 4 daughters. So tell us about that.